This video is sponsored by Loop Deck. In today's video, I'm going to show you something really exciting. How to walk through walls just like in Harry Potter. We all know that shot where Hagrid opens Diagon Alley and the wall that opens is obviously 3D. My personal opinion on this shot is that it's probably hand animated. Anyway, it's very obvious CG, but it was back in the time. Anyway, great job. So the first thing that we needed to do is record our shot, and this is what we ended up with. We recorded this shot against a church which had this door opening in the wall, which is a perfect shot for, a walk through wall effect. So for the recording, we used the Panasonic S1H, obviously without its cage, and we mounted this on the Moza gimbal. So really nice that it can actually carry the weight of such a heavy camera. And then the fun thing is that we have mounted this gimbal on the Slypod Pro, which is also from Moza. And this is a really interesting Slypod. You can actually charge it because it has a motor inside that allows you to electronically extend the pole. So you can use this in a lot of creative ways. Alright, so here we are in Adobe After Effects, and this is the footage that we will be working with. So the first thing that we need to do is, as you can see, I'm walking towards the wall and I come to a stop, and then I walk out of it. So we have a clean plate of the wall. So what I want to do now is basically I want to find a frame that I want to work on and remove myself from this where I can see the wall as clear as possible. So I think an angle like this would be perfect. So I'm going to control click here, and so I can see my frames right here. And I actually worked on frame 63 before this. So I'm actually going to click over here and press the asterisk key on my keyboard or my numpad to get this marker. And now I know where I want to get my reference from. So what we need to do here is save this frame, and we will need to essentially remove myself from the shot. So what I will do is go over to composition, save frame as, file, and we're going to save this as a Photoshop file, and then we're going to render this out. Then we're going to move ahead a little bit until we find a nice clean shot from the wall, which is right here. And then we're going to do the same thing, composition, save as. And then we want to open up Photoshop. So while Photoshop is opening, I'm going to continue and do a few more things on my shot. I want to go all the way till the beginning of my shot and go to my pen tool and just make a rough mask around myself. Something like this. Press M on the keyboard and set the mask to none, and then click on the stopwatch for creating a mask path. Now we're going to move 1 second forward and move the mask wherever necessary, so I'm just tucked in that mask, and as you can see, pretty roughly, but also not too roughly. We probably don't need to extend this shot so long, so you can also trim it just to be shorter. So maybe that's something that I will do until here. So I'm going to press N on the keyboard, right click, and trim the comp to work area so we have a smaller comp to work with, and then just check where the mask isn't perfect yet. So just try to correct it wherever necessary. And there we go. So once you have done that, we can now go ahead and subtract this mask so we don't see it in our shot anymore. We should have something like this. Now we can select our shot and go to layer, pre-compose this, and make sure that you move all the attributes. And this is going to be pre-track footage. There we go. And now we go over to the tracker and click on track camera, open up the advanced tab, and check detailed analysis. By the way, if you don't want to go over to the 3D camera tracker right here, or you want a more efficient way to apply your effects or to work with After Effects, I would highly recommend you to check out the Loop Deck Live. For example, if right here I want to apply a new effect, I can just search 3D camera tracker and apply that, or replace it with an existing effect, and now it will appear on my Loop Deck, and I can just hit that and that will just apply the effect. So if whenever I have a new file, I click on 3D Cam Tracker and it just adds another one right here. I must say, whenever I do repeated work, or I tend to use a lot of effects over and over again, or like multiple effects combined, I really see a lot of benefits with the Loop Deck, also to do some micro adjustments whenever I'm doing color grading or slight tweaks in number transfers, these dials are so smooth and they instantly react to whatever I'm doing in my software. So it's super useful to create some hotkeys and make things in your workflow a lot more efficient. I would highly encourage you to check it out with the link in the description below and see it for yourself. But there are endless of things that you can do with this, and the more you start using it, the more you realize how much benefit or how much of a time saver this really is. So now let that do its thing in the background and go in Photoshop. Now open up file 63 and frame 172 so that these are the two exports that we have created. And we're going to drag the second file into the first file. In the layers, we're going to set this to 50% so we can see through it. And we're also just going to create a simple mask around it so we don't have all this information. And copy that, Ctrl J, and delete the other mask. So basically we're getting a copy of just the door. And if you want, you can even take this a step further and really trim down a nice path here. And there we go. And then right click, make selection, feather 0. And then we're just going to use this. I'm going to copy this, disable this one, or just delete it. And so now we have this doorway that we can set to 50% opacity. And we just want to hit Ctrl T to get the transform positions. And holding Ctrl, you can now drag each corner until it kind of matches the background here. And you will see when it's like unsharp that it basically just doesn't match up yet. So it's something like this. Let's hit enter. And if we hit or make this 100%, we now have removed ourselves from this from the shot here. We do see a little bit of issues here in the floor. So what I will do is just remove parts that I don't need. So I'm going to add a layer mask, press B on the keyboard and switch the color so I just have a black brush, and then make the brush pretty small. And I'm basically just going to paint away parts here that are not necessary. So now we have frame 63 without a background. So I'm just going to disable this so we just have like the doorway or like the spot that we want to replace. And we're going to save this. All right, so the camera 3D tracker is done tracking, and we can see that we have a clean track here on the wall. So I'm going to search a spot where this circle represents nicely. Then I'm going to just right click here, and I'm going to create a solid end camera. So now we have a solid sticking to the wall if everything is okay. So we can check if this is a good track, and it appears it is, so that's great. We can now go back into our comp for the footage and press M and just set the mask again to none so we actually see our original footage. So another thing that I want to do is duplicate my original footage and go over to the roto brush tool and double click here, go all the way till the beginning of your timeline and start roto brushing yourself out. So you basically want to create a rotoscope of yourself. So basically you do that like that, and then Alt to remove parts until you're satisfied with your entire roto, and then you would go ahead and freeze this roto. Obviously I have plenty of videos where I'm already doing that. It's going to be a time waste, so I'm going to delete this, and I'm just going to import an already rotoed element that I have created using the roto brush. So as you can see, it's not perfect, but it gets the job done. So basically why I want to use this is because we're going to have a 3D wall and we want to appear in front of it. Especially with this solid now, you can see that we have a solid behind us, and this is going to sell our effect. So now that we have this, we want to select everything, go to File and go to Export. And we're going to export the Maxon Cinema 4D exporter. Once you have exported this, we want to fire up Cinema 4D or any 3D software of choice. But I'm basically going to show my quick workflow on how I have created this shot. So in Cinema, I will open up my project, and then I will go over to the motion tracker. And in the motion tracker, all I will do is just import my footage. Frame stop, I'm going to set at 120. I will go and set my timeline also to 120 frames. I will create a background object. Then I can delete the motion tracker and jump into the camera that we have from the project, which is a 3D camera tracker. So now if we play this, we should see a solid sticking to the wall. So now what I will do is create a cube and place that cube into the solid and reset the transformation for that cube so it's in the center of that solid, and then bring it out. So now it's just in the same 3D space as our solid. So then I will go and click here on my footage that we have as a material, and I will duplicate this and rename this projection texture. Then go over to frame 63 and we're going to apply this texture to the cube. So this is the frame that we also marked in Adobe After Effects. We can also increase the scale here for the cube, so we can see our texture right here. Then we're going to make this cube editable by pressing C. We're going to click on the texture and set this to camera mapping. Then we're going to create a new camera on this frame. This is going to be our projection camera. Then I'm going to click here back on that material and bring this projection camera into the camera section for the projection mapping. And now we should see that it's appearing in our footage, but the aspect ratio should be set to 16:9, which is HD TV. And now it should match up fine. Then I'm going to click on my footage and I'm also going to delete the UV tag, and I'm going to click on that material, go to tags and generate a new UVW tag. That will now burn this texture on this object. So now if I move my camera, we should see that the image is still animated, so that's still a problem. We just want to head over here and load in our Photoshop file for frame 63. And so for the Photoshop file, you can see that now we have a gray background. So what we can do is open up Photoshop and just enable our background right here and save again. Go back to Cinema and load the same image. So now we should see our original texture sticking onto that material. And now if we move off of that frame, you will see that it's projected onto that frame at all times. So this is exactly what we want. Now what I will do is jump out of my camera, and now if we go closer, we will still see that texture. So now if we go closer, we can see each detail here. I'm also going to click on this material and just push it back a little bit, just so it's just in front of that solid. Now we can also disable this solid so we don't see it. We just have this texture to focus on. Just make sure that the projection now is done right again, so we can delete the UV, go over here and set this to camera mapping, go to frame 63, and we're going to now make sure it's still okay. So every time you make a change to your model, you will need to go and do this again. So what I'll do here is just increase the scale a little bit and push it up. I'm also going to enable this solid and jump out of it. Make sure that the orientation is also similar. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit like that. And now that should be okay. And if you want, you can also duplicate this, bring it on the side here, and then bring it forward. So we have this other wall also covered. And now we can select these two tags, go to tag and generate the UV coordinates on frame 63. Disable the solid. And now if we move, we should see that everything is sticking fine. Obviously, you will see some distortions. We can all take that out in Adobe After Effects. So now what we want to do is jump out of the camera and create a new cube and bring that cube into this cube, and then also reset the transform for this. And now we just want to recreate every single cube. It's that easy. Also make sure that the cubes are kind of just in front. And just try to make sure that all the cubes kind of overlap in the height, so make them big enough. And once you have something like this, we need to apply the material to all these files. So we're going to collect all of them, make them editable, then click on the UV texture and remove the UV for all of them, and then apply this material for the projection texture to them. Then select all of the materials, projection camera mapping, and drag in the projection camera in the camera aspect here, and then also change it to 16:9, which is HD TV, and there we have it. Now we have it projected. Make sure that you're on the correct frame, and then go to tags, generate UVW tags. So now we have baked these textures. So let's say this is final. You would have to do each stone, of course, a little bit more correct. I just did this very quickly, but try to get them in the right position before you actually bake the textures. But as this is just for the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to stop it here. Then I'm going over here to the selection tag and I'm going to choose my lasso selection and I'm going to select stones on the left. And then I'm going to hold Alt and press G to group these and then select all the other ones and group these as well. Then I'm going to head over here and create a fracture object and duplicate that fracture object. Now place each container of the null into a fracture object. Now we can delete these nulls. The reason why we place these in fracture objects is so we can add effectors to these. So now we can go over here to the MoGraph effector and add a random effector. And we can also go over, click here, MoGraph effector plane effector. And let's say that this is the right part. So this is fracture right. And this is fracture left. So now check in the effectors tab right here if the two effectors are correctly applied. If not, just drag them in here. And what we can do now is go over to the plane effector and actually turn off the random effector for now. So we can just concentrate on the plane, reset the Y and just bring it forward. So we just want to bring them forward and we also want to slide them to the right just like that. And we also want to enable the rotation and just rotate them a little bit here on the H, just like that. And so now we want to head over to the fields and we want to add a box field. It's going to be a little bit easier. And now we can increase this in size and especially in Z. And so now what we can do is animate this so the wall would actually move out of place. And that's exactly what we want to do. So we can make this a little bit longer and drag it down and try to do this on the average same height that you would actually be in. So now go all the way till the beginning, create a keyframe, move forward, and slide this in. Now all you would have to do is do the same thing for the random. And actually this box field is for the plane effector. For the random, we're going to enable this. And for the random, we just want to disable the position and we just want to concentrate on the rotation. And we also, whenever they are being affected here, we want to randomize the H a little bit. We want to make sure that the random field is actually coming before the plane. So we want to make sure that this is on top. We're going to bring this down. Now we're going to also bring this box field into the random. So we're going to the fields and bring in the box field. And it's going to create something like this. So now export this animation and let's jump back into Adobe After Effects. And there we go. I'm going to import this as a PNG sequence. Now I'm going to drag this on top of my footage, but below my roto, and you will see if I play this without this solid enabled, that I now have something like this. You can also split your roto layer, and then once you can bring it below, and then extend it, and then go to the top layer, press T on the keyboard, and just lower the opacity to make that transition happen. And so now it looks like you're stepping in. And what I've also done is created an adjustment layer with curves applied to it. And I've just created a mask of the door opening. So you could do this in different ways, but this is just a quick and dirty way of doing this. And then I just lowered the curves for there, and I also feathered it out a little bit. Then I pressed M on the keyboard, created a keyframe for the mask, and animated that over time. And you can also darken yourself by adding a curves here, creating a keyframe for the curves, and then move forward a little bit and darken yourself. All I've done from here is also removed my shoes a little bit using some tracking techniques from Mocha. I have a great tutorial on object removals if you want to go and check that out. And I also did some color correction, minor color correction on the wall footage to make it blend a little bit better. So just brighten it up a little bit and play around with that from here. And also make sure that this mask is animated at all times where necessary. And after playing around with the effects here and there a little bit, that brings us to the final result. Enjoy! Alright, if you enjoyed that, be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel if you want to see more, and also hit the notification bell so you stay notified when I upload new videos. Apart from that, I'm going to leave you with another video of mine right here so you can continue your VFX journey. Until next time, create epic videos.